So welcome to tonight's event. So great to have everybody on board. Welcome to Muskoka Libraries collaboration of the virtual author event with our very own Sue Kelly. She's a registered nurse, wellness specialist, and radio host and educator. And we're so excited to have Sue here this evening. Tonight, Sue will be discussing her book, Still Sexy After 60, 7 Secrets to Finding Life's Sweet Spot. My name is Julia Reinhardt. I'm the CEO Chief Librarian of the Gravenhurst Public Library, and I'm going to be acting as moderator tonight. We've been having a couple of technical issues, so please bear with us. We have Megan here who's looking after that for us, so hopefully things will continue and we'll be okay with it. Before I introduce Sue and get things rolling with some questions, I want to read our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and Métis people were and are still the keepers and caretakers of the land and waters upon which the town of Gravenhurst now sits, which is covered by the Williams Treaty and the One Dish with One Spoon Treaty. We are deeply grateful for the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples who have shaped and strengthened this community for the benefit of future generations. And we are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. So now I have a couple of housekeeping items. Near the end of tonight's discussion, we're hoping to field a few questions from the audience for Sue, if possible. And these can be posted in the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. This event is also being recorded, and it will be posted on social media by each of the hosting Muskoka libraries, just so everybody's aware. Now to my introduction of our special guest, Sue Kelly. Sue is a registered nurse who has spent most of her nursing career in the community as an outpost nurse in northern Manitoba, in palliative care, and as a visiting nurse in Greater Toronto, and as National Director of Health and Wellness. Sue is the founder of all of the Still Sexy After 60 Women's Wellness Conference, which was actually took place here in Gravenhurst a few years back. Over 2 years it took place. So, you know, quite a few in the area actually did participate in that conference, which was well done, for sure. She's also a radio host and an educator and a volunteer here in Gravenhurst, Ontario. She lives with her soulmate, Paul, on a beautiful lake in Muskoka, and together they enjoy the pleasures of their 3 adult children, their mates, and their 6 precious grandchildren. Welcome again, Sue. Really glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julia, and to the other libraries, 6 libraries on tonight. It's a real privilege to speak to everyone tonight in my own community. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome, Sue. Yeah, it's great to have you here. So I'll get started with some questions for you. So the first question, I think that's kind of a burning question, is what motivated you to write this book?
Well, you know, I was in my late 50s and I was approaching 60. That's a little while ago now. And I just had a lot of trepidation turning 60. You know, I had no problem at turning 40 nor 50. You know, I kind of reevaluated my life and had new goals and everything, but 60 just sounded old. And it was like society had stamped my forehead with a, you know, expiry date, like your best before date, telling me and others that we weren't relevant. You know, we weren't fresh enough anymore. And yet I still had lots of ideas. I had a lot of energy. I still felt I was valued, even maybe more valued than before. And I still felt sexy. And I just kind of railed against what society was saying, and nobody was talking about it. And I think that was the genesis for Still Sexy After 60. It was born to keep, or at least to get the conversation going. And so and so I wrote the book. And the other thing was, I was, two things. That was, as you get older, you know, nobody knows their expiry date. We don't know, like when we're going to die. And I wanted to make sure that whatever time I had left, that I made a difference. And the other point is that with my background in nursing, I was thinking maybe I could help those who might be struggling. As a visiting nurse, you know, I was always invited. I always felt privileged at any rate. I don't think I was always invited, but I went into people's homes, but I've always felt it was a privilege, and met wonderful caregivers who were, I saw the best of the caregivers, but I also saw people who at the end of their life had a lot of regrets. And we all make decisions, and maybe I could help in a small way, help people, you know, make a decision that would impact their life, and they'd exit this world a little better than they would have, I suppose. So that's why I did it. It took 5 years to write my book. And thank you for mentioning about the Women's Wellness Conference. So I'm going to move on to my slides right now, Julia. Okay. Sure. Okay. And let's see. It's not moving. Might need a little help here from our. There we go. There we go. Very good. Now I know what to do. And so who are we? So, you know, we are children of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And today we're turning 60, 70, and 80. But not, I mean, that's still relevant too for people in their 50s. And I've had people in their 40s say, this book is so good, I've learned a lot from it. So, and we were a product of the very first sexual revolution, you know, way back in the day, taking risks, fighting for what was right and fair. And so the book actually is threaded with a lot of the music from the 60s and 70s, and I'll get into that in a minute. But like a bridge over troubled water, the music is still my heart and my inspiration. And you'll see that there's numerous song titles and lyrics threaded throughout the book, because I just feel like music is such a touchstone to our past, remembering back then, but also it brings people together. So it's, so now we're on to the great second sexual revolution. And we again want to take risks and fight for what's right and fair as society evolves. And so, so the very first Women's Wellness Conference was here at the Gravenhurst Opera House. Ignore that funny little thing in my hair. We were all wearing these, I forget what you call those things. But at any rate, Lynn Poslins was our keynote speaker. She is the president and founder of the Women's Brain Health Initiative. And she talked all about brain health. So what you do for your brain, you do for your body and your heart, and all helps you to keep sexy. Now, I should tell you, my definition of sexy is attitude. It's your attitude about life. It's your connection with people. It's your vivre. It's your engagement with society and how you approach life and our challenges and health challenges and things like that. It's that's what sexy is to me. So it doesn't matter what your age is. So then there we were. In fact, if some of you, I don't know if you're on the, you were in attendance, but there we all were at the Opera House, and it was just so exhilarating. On the second day, everybody got a hot pink pashmina. We had lots of gifts and door prizes. It was so much fun. And then they wanted me to do it again. So I had hoped to have my book ready for the conference, but I didn't. So then that was 2016. And then in 2017, there's Jeannie Becker. Now, you know Jeannie Becker, she's a television personality and a radio host, and she's written lots of books. And she talked a lot about her Jewish heritage and how that has helped her grow and evolve. That's Carol Bertuzzi, and she was a hit. And if it wasn't for Carol, I don't think I'd have such a wonderful turnout. So that was year number 2, and I'd hoped to have my book. And then year number 3, the third one, finally, so that's Liz Manley, you know, our Olympic figure skater. And actually the third Women's Wellness Conference was held in Collingwood. It was a lot of fun. And so finally, there we are, Carol's there. And you might recognize Maureen Baznicki. She sadly is our 9/11 widow. Do you know it's going to be 20 years? It's September the 11th since 9/11 occurred. So Maureen was one of my guest speakers. So finally, yay, my book was done. And everybody got a copy. I was so thrilled finally to give birth to this baby. It was a long haul, and I'm really excited. It's kind of still going on here. So, so now I want to talk about sweet spots. So 7 secrets to finding life's sweet spots. Well, and it's really not a secret. You guys know it already. But some of you might have heard about, this is a Japanese model called your Ikigai. Have you found your Ikigai? So it's, it talks about what, the reason you get up in the morning is your Ikigai. It talks about things that you're good at, what you can, great things that you can be paid for, what the world needs, what you love, what's your passion and mission, and all of that. So that's an Ikigai. And that's just fine, but I created my own in the book, and you'll see it. And it's my, and this is my, it's kind of my Venn diagram of the body, mind, and spirit, which is threaded throughout the whole book. And you know, each area, our body, mind, and spirit, you get to define which is which. And you know, they're not all equal. It's not like an equal Venn diagram, because that's not life, right? And each area is sacred, like our sweet spot, like that balance. What is the sweet spot? You know, what is a sweet spot? It's referred to many times in life. So for example, the sweet spot on a golf club, you know, it's that spot where that right angle and the velocity and your position and everything, and you have that perfect hit. Or even in the business world, what's the sweet spot in marketing, where the price and the product and the perceived value and it all is in line with your market. In fact, I'll bet you even have a sweet spot in your home, where you get up in the morning and have your coffee and you feel safe, you feel relaxed, and it's where you can say yes or where you can say no with that assurance. So it's something that I have struggled with myself. So the book guides us through the 7 areas, which I'll get to, and to help you find your sweet spot in life. And we're going to come back to that later. Okay, there we go, Julia.
Okay, well, thanks, Sue. So you've talked about sweet spots. Now, if you could maybe tell us more about what the book's about in general, and I know you've got some stories that you're going to relay as well.
I do. I have, you know, and can you still see me, everybody?
Yes.
I want to make sure. That's great. So, you know, there's over 60 true stories in my book, and they're all depict that one of those seven secrets. So, so let's see. Sorry for I'm hesitating here. So what is the book about? You know, it's kind of like an oxymoron when I say that Still Sexy After 60 is an anti-aging formula that rejuvenates the body, mind, and spirit, because ironically, it's not so much anti-aging as pro-aging, enhancing the later years with authenticity, enthusiasm, and a little bit of magic. So when I was writing my book, I kind of put my nursing cap on, and I thought about what are the 7 most important areas in someone's life? What are the characteristics that represent essential sweet spots on our journey? And so I have developed those here. So this is the book, right? And I've got my little notes here. And what I'm going to do is just quickly just tell you the sort of the chapter so you get a sense of the book. And when I tell you the chapter, every tagline has a musical thread in it. So it's kind of fun. So the first chapter is the body, and it's Let's Get Physical. So it's Olivia Newton-John, so it's probably a little bit older, but you know what? Our health is our wealth. And it's such a valuable resource, and we should be taking care of our health as an absolute priority. It's looking at your current health and looking at your gene pool, like what genes are floating around in your gene pool. And, you know, with so many, as you get older, our friends, our family start to die. And, you know, it's easy to kind of do a post-mortem on their life, but, you know, we get to do a pre-mortem on our life and take steps now. The next is the brain. Did you know that the brain is the most important sexual organ in the body? And it's about your frame of mind. It's about attitude, emotions, your mental health, addictions, stress, self-esteem. And I get into, because it's the brain, cognitive disorders. With my nursing background, again, dementia and Alzheimer's, I compare, you know, the two. And you know what, Margaret Thatcher kind of said it the best. And Margaret said, your thoughts become your words become your actions become your character, and your character becomes your destiny. And so that's well expanded through the book. The next chapter is probably my favorite one, actually. It's love, sex, and intimacy. So did you know that you can be satiated by all three, or maybe just by one and not the other two? And so I'm going to talk a little bit here. I'm going to tell you some stories and talk a little bit about intimacy, because I think that it's one of the most important things as you're aging is the connection with, well, and if you're in a relationship, so I'm going to be talking about sexual intimacy, but of course, there's all kinds of intimacy, right? But intimacy is the glue that keeps couples emotionally connected. And lack of it is one reason the couples choose to part. Intimacy is important at any age, but as hot passion wanes, sex slows down, or chronic health problems sneak in, it is often the love and intimacy that endures. So I'm going to tell you two stories here. One is about Jean, who's 57, and Jack is 60. They're from Chicago. And after 36 years, they decided to call it quits. After all these years, Jean was still embarrassed to take off her clothes in front of her husband. Rick demeaned her sensuality by making jokes about her small breasts, making her feel less desirable or sexy. Because Rick was a slam bam, thank you ma'am kind of lover. And when Jean craved a deeper connectedness and wasn't willing to accept kind of this emotional wasteland that she was living in. And so they separated. She actually went for counseling to help her separate. But then north of the border in Quebec, we have Etienne, and he's a dear friend of mine, and he was in his 70s, and he met Justine online. And he told me, I woke up one morning and looked into Justine's eyes and tearfully whispered, you and I have a meeting with destiny. And Justine joyfully agreed. They desired to share their good mornings and good nights for whatever time was left. Happiness comes through shared intimacy. He had been married before, and in the story, never knew real intimacy. And it just brought him to tears. So moving right along, and so I get into lots of other things in that chapter. 7 myths about sex after 60, vaginal health, erections, sex toys, flatline sex life, and preparing for sex after a drought. Okay, the next is relationships. 5 keys to love and to be loved, and of which communication too is one of the keys there. And I get into online dating. And the story of Patty and Daryl is alive and well there. There we go. There's Patty and Daryl here. So I know it's scary going on online. I've had lots of friends who have gone online. And I outline a lot of considerations, red flags, things you should be concerned about. Now, when I tell you this next statistic, don't be alarmed and still have the courage to carry on, but 60% of people online are not who they say they are. You're going, oh my gosh. They're either say they're single and they're not, or they're someone else, or it's not this person in the picture, or it's a younger picture. they're just not being true to themselves. But yet I've known many who have been very successful. So just keep on trying. And actually, sometimes I've had to change the names for privacy, but in the book about Patty and Daryl, I entitled it "The One That Almost Got Away." So it's Patty is actually my sister, my baby sister, who was in her 50s, and it tells the story about three guys that she met all at once online, and the first two, how that happened, and how she said, "Oh, no," you know, how she ended those two associations. It didn't last. First date, and she knew after that. But Daryl, I'm not going to tell you the story in it, but I'm going to tell you the rest of the story that's not in the book. So they did date, and 2 years later they moved in together. And immediately he started having pain on one side. Long story short, fourth stage bowel cancer. But it's been a very positive story. It's 2 years later again, and he's doing so well. And she's been a huge support to her. In fact, the specialist can't believe how well he's doing. So they would, you know, I just think, what if they never would have met? You know, they never would have had these years and ongoing years. So resilience. So resilience is the ability to successfully adapt to stressors. It's kind of your bounce back, especially like during COVID too. It's your ability to pivot when things sharply happen in life. It also is about when life isn't so sweet, when there aren't those sweet spots. I talk about 3 friends whose husbands died, loss and mourning. And many of you are, I'll bet, are family caregivers. You're caring for elderly parents or a husband or neighbors, and about the importance of the 3 R's of caregiving. And then we get into retirement, that bittersweet milestone. And it's an opportunity to redefine who you are. And I talk about the 3 Johns there, because this isn't all about women, and there's lots of stuff in here for you guys. And how they approach retirement at different ages, and how it's not them alone, but they themselves and their spouse, how they approach retirement. Oh, I didn't tell you about the music, but that's okay. But in retirement, it's, you know, the birds turn. And so we talk about turning a new phase, turning a new page, turning into a new driveway as you kind of right size your house or whatever, turning social media on or off, turning money into common sense, and it's your turn to travel. And the last is purpose. And for purpose, it's, you know, the Beatles' Imagine. And really the purpose is, why were you born? That's really kind of a big key. Why were you born? And what is your passion? And how are you going to make a difference in the world? So, Julia, those are the 7 secrets there.
Well, that's a really great overview of the book, Sue. And I think I have to say, you know, having read it myself recently, I really appreciated the personal stories that you provided of people you know. I think that provides some real positive evidence of what you're conveying in your book. And also you bring such a lovely personal element of yourself to the book that I have to say I really liked that as well. And you mentioned the music. That was one thing when I was reading it through. There were a few things that you mentioned where I couldn't get the song out of my head. Like, thank you for the music. ABBA's one of ABBA's songs. I just couldn't get that song in my head. It was great to kind of to read, you know, and read how you connect the music to parts of the story of still being sexy after 60. So thank you for that. Now, you've talked about relationships and people and couples. What if you're single? What is the, you know, how does being single after 60 and still wanting to be sexy, how does that get explained or talked about in your book?
Yes, well, you know, often circumstances are beyond our control, due to death or divorce or disability or separations, that we find ourselves that we are single, and it's beyond our control. But what you do have control is, and I think that makes a difference in a single male or female's life, is connections, and it's in relationships, and so very close friends that you can have an intimate relationship, the sharing of yourself, that open disclosure, that you can trust somebody, and they become like family, and they just enhance your life immensely. Also finding what your passion is in life, and how you, like, I believe volunteering is so important in giving back to the community in some little way when you're ready to do it, and you're making a difference in life. And if if you're looking for a partner, sometimes when you explore what your passion is in a community organization, volunteering for something, you'll meet so many new people, and they too, you right away you've got some common ground, right? And that's a great way to start a relationships. In telling all your friends, if I've got a cousin right now. She divorced 2 years ago, and she is telling everybody she knows she's interested, she's willing to take a risk, and if you know anybody who is, wants to take a risk too, and just give me their phone number or whatever, call them to call me, and start that way. I remember I did a little experiment. I was at a library, actually. It was in downtown Toronto, so that big Chapters at Bloor and Bay. And I thought, I am going to just see if I can get into a conversation with a man. So I just thought, it's your smile's a little warmer, your conversation's a little longer. It's and I had no problem at all striking up conversations, and so you got to take, get out of yourself a little bit, take a risk, and but there's always red flags, and no matter if you're online or not, those red flags would apply to all situations. So I hope some of that's helpful.
I think being sexy is really, it's an attitude more than anything, right? Is what you're saying. It's just, and like you said, taking a risk, and being willing to be out there and find, make those new discoveries, whatever that entails, right?
If you're full of joy, you're going to exude joy, and that's attractive. That is really sexy to people, not men and women. I mean, they love people who are positive and joyful, and it's not all about them. Asking about the other person is a great way. You can, about getting to know someone and carrying, and let's just see where it goes.
Absolutely. I think that being interested in someone else and demonstrating that, and having that as the point where you have that conversation with somebody, and then they take an interest in you, and that's just building relationships initially, right?
Yes, so. It really is, yes.
So is being sexy, or still sexy, still relevant now that we've experienced this pandemic and these times?
Well, it hit me how I really believe that this book is a perfect book for COVID, or we can't really say post-COVID, can we? Because it's still with us. But when COVID hit the world stage and life came to a halt, I realized that I had been on a treadmill. When there was a court order that we could not leave the house, I was ecstatic. I mean, for all the sadness that was in the world, I found that COVID was a gift of time. But we've had almost, a year and a half of all of this time. And so it allowed me to reevaluate my life and reestablish my priorities. I really didn't have balance. And here I wrote a book, and I'm guilty. It's so easy to get caught up and what's the word, but overcommit myself. And so I am really trying hard to go back slowly and evaluate what I'm willing to do. So for example, my radio show I was doing every week, my show was on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock. And it was a lot of work actually trying to arrange guests and everything. So now anyway, it's every other week. So I just do it twice a month. Oh, and it's just easy peasy now. I can manage it really easily. And it's something I still enjoy doing. So sometimes it's just a workaround if it's something that you enjoy. So the book, the book is also a bit of a source book and a little bit of a workbook, because at the end of each chapter, there are a few questions, just a couple of little questions. And then I have this sweet spot scale, and I ask you to plot yourself where you are on the scale. And at the very end of the book, all I ask is that you pick one spot, one of those seven characteristics, and which one do you want to start to work on first. And so you can make the book your own. You can create goals. You can create your own music lists, and use it as a way to recover from COVID with a lot more hope and with optimism.
Very good. Next question I have here, can you talk a little bit about how sexuality actually changes with age? I think that's something that you focus on that's quite significant in your book, both for women and for men.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And so first of all, the good news is, it's never been a better time to be old, getting older and aging. We've got better diagnostics, better drugs, better access to information, more choices, electronics for everything, health, vital signs, travel, finding your keys, or they've got an app if you're wandering. So, given that's a real plus. But the phrase, use it or lose it, was never more spot on as when describing sex for the older adult. So society is breaking down those ancient taboos that once you reach a certain age, you simply don't do it anymore. Well, bah humbug to that. I mean, that's one of those things that, you talk to young kids in their 20s or 30s, and they don't even want to hear that their parents or grandparents are still having sex. So, but the thing is, we arrive at this point in life with varying shades of our sexuality, from, our worlds are all colored differently, from monotonous and dull till the bold and beautiful. So some of us, maybe we're feeling we're a mere shadow of our former selves, perhaps due to the death of a partner, or as health problems sneak in, or there's disabilities. But some of us may be in a really strong, long-term monogamous relationship. In fact, there was a study done in Chatelaine that, so although sexuality climaxes around 40s, that people in their 50s and 60s, 79% are still enjoying orgasms, and in the 70s, 55% are still enjoying orgasms. But it changes. It might not be, that mutual timing and sexual gratification together. It's one satisfying the other, or the other. And did you know that there's 4 different kinds of orgasm? You might want to read my book. Yeah. And of course, great sex starts with open communication. And the most powerful sex organ is the brain. So, your attitudes, your desires and fantasies, things that you would like to foster, or things that you don't like, or that you would wish that occurred, is just snuggling up with your partner and letting that person know how you really feel. And sex toys can be a great way to spice up your life. A good entry sex toy, and pardon the pun, but is the little it's a little pocket rocket. It's about this big, like a tube of lipstick. And it's great for carrying in your luggage or in your makeup case. And I go into the pros and cons of different water-based lubricants and silicone-based lubricants. So lubricants, oh my, is a panacea. It is the key to, I think, having great sex. And, you know, it's a lot of too is about the relationship. It's about, you know, allowing a kiss to linger a little longer and looking, a lot of people guys and gals look at sex as something they, you know, have to do, or it's something to do instead of a place you go to for mutual sensual pleasure. And, you know, the other thing that, you know, I'm thinking lately is as one gets older is, you're not going to be able to carry on. Like, you don't know when that's going to be taken away from you for whatever reason. Again, and so to me, it becomes something I cherish, and that closeness and intimacy is, because I don't know when I'm not going to have it. And so there's a new sweetness about it that I didn't have before. So it's kind of interesting. So vaginal health, let's move on to the vagina. So obviously there's a decrease in estrogen, and it causes the lining of the vagina to become drier and thinner. And, you know, God, they have to put a name on it, the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, like the GSM, like is there probably a GPS for it, for all I know. But, you know, that's why lubricants are so, so important. And there's a story in my book about preparing for sex after a drought. And actually, a friend of mine from the city asked me to come and do it. I guess we'd call it a sex visit, because I did an assessment of how she was doing. She had lost her husband 6 years previously, and was thinking about carrying on, or dating this fellow, and she was worried about going to bed with him. So, you know, with medication, and I outlined several factors that she could do to warm things up, and sure enough, of course, it worked just fine. And so for men, did you know that like 50% of men over 40 have some degree of erectile dysfunction? In fact, I'm going to go into my book now. Okay, ED, erectile dysfunction. What is it? So it is the repeated inability to keep an erection firm or maintain an erection long enough for satisfactory sexual intercourse. Erectile dysfunction can be a total inability to achieve an erection. It can be an inconsistent ability or a tendency to sustain only brief erections, but it is treatable. And I know it's tough to go to the family doctor and talk about it. I had women say to my husband will not go to the family doctor, and I'm the one that's suffering. But, you know, one of the great things is medication again. So, you know, Viagra is, you know, comes in 25, 50, 100 milligram tablets, and it's generally start off with 25 milligrams, and you can even cut them in half. So if you're a little bit nervous of what it might do to you, if there's any side effects, I would cut one in half to start with. The difference between Viagra and Ciala, so Viagra works more quickly. It's kind of an on-demand in that take when needed, about an hour prior to sex, but it can kick in from 30 minutes, and it can last up to maybe 4 hours. Always take it on an empty stomach. And Cialis is a guy takes it, it can last 48 hours or longer. And so you can take half, even though they tell you you can't, but you can take half again. And so it's just like, as long as there aren't any side effects to any of the ingredients, it's certainly worth a try, and really does enhance the relationship. You know, I talk about too, carrying on with aging, is incontinence, stress incontinence, or urgency incontinence. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but what really helps are Kegel exercises for guys and gals, because the muscles of the bladder and the bowel and all of the sexual genitalia, that Kegel exercises help that hammock of muscles to be tighter and stronger and help support the organs within there. So please consider that. Okay, I think that's a pretty good, there's even more in there, but roundup on aging and sexuality.
So yeah, Sue, I really appreciate your talking about these topics. These traditionally have been fairly taboo topics, and it's so great to hear you talk about it. I think the more we do that, the better off we are in those relationships, right? And our relationships. And I think your openness and your honesty about it, and you're well informed because you're a nurse. You're a practitioner, and so it's coming from a place of being educated and informed. So very much appreciate that, I think, and I'm hoping everybody else is appreciating that as well. It's important. So so I guess the next question has to do with, you're talking about sex. What about passion? How do you find your passion? I know we're not necessarily talking about passionate sex here. We're talking about a life passion.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's one of the keys of happiness is when you find out, perhaps again, like, why were you born, and is finding the passion within you that you're able to make a difference in the world. So in the book, there is an exercise that I have you do, and it is trying to find what is a core value that you have, a characteristic that is authentic to you, because it's really about who are you, who is the authentic self here, and you have an opportunity as you age to create a new narrative. It doesn't have to be the old. Redefine who you are. You have the control to make a difference. And so there is that exercise that I draw you through. Sometimes it's fun doing it with a friend. That reminds me, same if you're doing online dating and you're creating your profile, definitely have a friend and have some wine. And as you create this, because your friends, a close friend will maybe know you even better than what you think, or what some of your gifts are. Sometimes, before you launch into this new passion, sometimes there's something there are issues that you need to deal with. Again, even before you go seeking a partner, online dating or whatever, or starting some volunteer work, or you've retired and you're looking, there might be issues that you need to deal with that need some time for whatever they might be. And just start with some baby steps, talk to friends, and then just do one step at a time. At the very back of the book, there is a, let me just pull it up here. Exercise. It's called the Sweet Spot Appy Tool. And it is all about taking one little step, have one goal, and it outlines for you. It asks you some questions to help flush it out and come up with a plan. It's actually, you actually SWOT it. You look at your strengths and weaknesses, the opportunities and threats about a certain little goal, is flushing it out and helping you to see it realistically. And that's when you find your passion. So I just wish you all the best I'm sure a lot of you have found your passion already, but we can have lots of passions, right? And something new could pop up.
And I think it's a lot of fun because it's a journey trying to discover what that passion is, right? And once people are semi-retired or retired, there's additional time on hand in order to explore that. So, and sometimes I think that's what it takes, is that additional time to do that, Sue. So now, speaking of that, I know we talked quite a bit about your book, but I understand that you actually have been approached by the CBC to be involved in a documentary. You can clarify this if I'm not correct, but on the Great Canadian Sex Survey. So that's something I know you wanted to talk about, and also, what else are you doing next? You know, what are the next, what's up next for Sue Kelly?
Well, first of all, I got this call from a documentary company out of Montreal, and I guess they'd been online and they saw my website and that I'd written a book. So they're creating this documentary for the CBC that will be coming out in probably like February of next year. And they're taking the entire lifespan. They're looking at gender and sexuality through the lifespan. So I come in way down here in aging, and so I haven't had my interview yet, but we're back and forth because they've been very busy. So it'll be mid-September when they're going to interview me. So that's really fun. And so what else is up with me? Well, through COVID, one of the things that got me through was, like, I do enjoy writing, and I know there is a couple of authors that are on tuning in tonight. And I have to make a plug for the Muskoka Authors Association, which they have been extremely supportive, a wonderful, caring group of people, and they have amazing, amazing speakers. And lately it's been on Zoom. So I don't know when we'll all be able to get back together, but you can just Google the Muskoka Authors Association. Anyway, I've been writing some children's book. They call it Kidlit. So I've really been having fun writing books about my grandchildren. So that's been so I was taking some online courses, and I'm actually due to start another one. I just love it so much, just once a week, you know, for 2 hours. And I just work on some of my writing.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you made very good use of your COVID pandemic time there by exploring writing further and by taking the courses. I admire that. That's really exciting.
In the library, I mean, when we ask for some children's books related to, I don't know, what was it now, about, I'm trying to remember, I wrote about Ethan and Freddie the Frog. So books on frogs. You guys gave me so many books. I came out with, you know, shopping bags full of books on all kinds of topics. So it was a big help.
Oh, that's great. Good to hear that the library was very,
oh, yeah.
you know, a source of great resources here for you to delve into. So that's terrific. So in terms of wrapping things up, we do have a few minutes for questions for Sue. And just so people are aware, Sue, if you do have a more personal question that you don't really want to ask Sue during this event, understandable, and certainly she is available to speak with you. Sue, you had
one more slide to put up, and I'm going to
do a slide. Right.
Do that right now. I had taken off share my screen, but now I want to, I don't know. If I put up this slide, I'm going to try this. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. It's up already. There we go. Here. Is that clear? No?
Megan, our technical guru, is assisting Sue, bringing that slide up. While we're waiting for that, are there any questions people want to put in the chat? Looks like Carol, you've had your hand up for a bit there, Carol Stevens. If I take you off mute, do you want to answer the question or ask Sue a question? I'll just
Thank you.
I can unmute you.
Really clean.
There.
Removed, and if you just have one of them that's out of alignment, it actually can put the whole piece out.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Wrong. It then sort of goes on to the next joint, and actually you just don't get a very good coming off quite easily.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Hear that?
With the Victorian glue.
Okay, somebody's got television on, I think. Okay. All right, I'm just going to see. There was a question in the chat as well from Wendy Truscott. Wendy asks, she says that there is an old saying, biology is destiny. Nowadays, people dispute this. I think there's a great deal of truth in it, though. What about you? And Sue, that related back to your early comment.
Good. Very good.
Hurting. Genes.
Good. That is such a good question, because as we get older, we really do need to take a closer look at our biology and our family genes. And around 50 is a better time than 60 to take a look at it. And because if you can identify early any symptoms of some chronic health problems, that's the key. That's the key to managing it, or that's the key to cancer, is identifying symptoms early enough. People let them go. So therefore, for example, if you have prostate cancer in the family or breast cancer, you should go at least 10 years earlier than what, say, your parent was diagnosed at, and go to the doctor and explain that these are risk factors. You have risk factors that you can control and risk factors that you can't control. And I know that's what you're saying is about the biology, perhaps a history of diabetes or high blood pressure. But if you identify it early enough, you can control taking your medication, following your diet, importance of exercise, stress. All of those are so important into having a healthy life. It's the science today. What we eat, what we do, what we think, and all of that plays a role. And it was never given a lot of emphasis before, but it is shown to be very true.
Great, thanks, Sue, for that.
Question.
Carol Stevens actually said she had her hand up by accident, but she's really enjoying the talk.
That's nice.
Do have a question from Sherry. She's asking, do you feel that someone's economic status affects their health, e.g. concerns about income and what services can be acquired?
Well, you have hit a nail on the head. One of the key factors for wellness is income they have found that those that have more education, if we equate some education at least to our health, and I suppose it's exposure to healthier concepts of lifestyle, again, nutrition and exercise, and avoidance of like unsafe situations that all can impact one's level of wellness, addictions, stress, and all of that. So that can play a part. Not that it means you won't live a healthier life, but they have established that it's one of the key determinants of health is income level, along with several others. So I've just named some of the other key determinants, which is which biology, circling back to what Wendy had said, your history, your family history is a key determinant, along with nutrition and exercise, etc.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point that Sherry brought up, for sure. Wendy has clarified a little more in terms of her question. She states that she thinks the biology reference had more to do with gender, i.e. women could expect less in life than men.
Oh, I see. So, I think back to the first sexual revolution, when they started to change things for women and childcare and women working and, their career path and getting that, the goal of being able to rise in your career. And so things are far better than they used to be in the 50s and 60s, but we have a way to go. And I believe that not just our generation, but those in their 30s and 40s are also kind of railing against the inequities that are out there. So to some degree, yes, you're absolutely correct.
So those are the questions we have. If there are no others, I don't see any others popping up in the chat.
But
Below.
you had said, Julia, if anyone would like to email me, my email is there, suekelly121@gmail.com. I'm happy to, connect with you. And there's the website is there. And if these are the locations where my books are located, and in Muskoka, just really at the shipyards and Auburn Gallery, but you can see the rest of them there. And if any of you ever want to have a book club, I don't know. First of all, did we tell them how much the books are, Julia?
Nope, I haven't mentioned that.
Okay, go ahead.
So the books are available for $20 a copy, but Sue has indicated that she has 2 for 1 for $35 for 2. So that's correct, right?
They're normally $24.95, so the special offer is at $20, or if you want to buy 2, you can get them for $35. And if you're in a book club and you're thinking that you might like to explore this together, just give me a call or email me, and I'll give you a really special price. And I'm, if you want, I'm happy to come for your first meeting and, just introduce the book and answer any questions.
That's extremely generous of you, Sue. Really appreciate that, and perhaps somebody will be taking you up on that. Just so people are aware, if you'd like a signed copy of Still Sexy After 60, these can be pre-ordered through the Muskoka Libraries until noon tomorrow, but the Gravenhurst Public Library will still make them available here over the next few weeks if you miss out on that. So just so everybody knows. In terms of tonight's event, I'll just do a wrap up. Thank you so much, Sue, for all of your expertise and for your openness, your honesty, so genuine in terms of your storytelling. And I don't know, you really certainly got people thinking about some important aspects of becoming 60, and we really appreciate your willingness to be at the focus of tonight's talk. Thank you so much for that. Thank you also to Megan here at the Gravenhurst Public Library for your work and supporting the technology this evening. And a big thanks to our audience for watching this evening's virtual author events. Greatly appreciated. So just so people are aware, we do have some additional virtual author talks that have been planned for the fall. Wanted to give everybody a heads up, so mark the dates, these following dates in your calendars if you're interested. We have Lisa Unger. She is a New York Times bestselling author, and she's going to be talking about her latest novel called Last Girl Ghosted. I believe it's a mystery thriller, and that's taking place at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October the 26th. Then we have our very own Terry O'Reilly, and he is going to be talking about his latest book, My Best Mistake, Epic Fails and Silver Linings, and I think that's taken from his programs on the CBC. And that's taking place on Thursday, November the 18th at 7 o'clock. And then we have Gilnis Peters, and she's a UK author, and she's going to be talking about her latest novel, The Red Cross Orphans. And she's actually going to be joining us virtually in the UK. So she's going to be, we're going to be hosting that on a Saturday morning. So Saturday, December the 4th at 10 a.m. is when we're going to be hosting that. And I'd like to express my thanks to all of the Muskoka Libraries for collaborating together on these talks, and a special thanks to Kathy Fairburn for her contacts with and her work that she's been doing with HarperCollins to line up some of these authors too. So yeah, really appreciate having everybody on tonight. And like I said earlier, this talk with Sue is being recorded and will be available through the Gravenhurst Public Library website come next week, and all the other Muskokas come next week, and Muskoka Libraries websites next week as well. So check it out, or let your friends know that it's there. And yeah, so thank you again. That pretty much wraps everything up. Have a super evening. Stay safe and be kind. Good night.